Welcome to the Calm Mom Podcast, the show for ambitious women ready to get off the hot mess express. I know you've got a lot going on. You work so hard, you're raising an incredible family, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. I'm your host, Michelle Grosser. I'm a certified master life coach, attorney, wife, and mom. And years ago, I was right where you are. I was running a busy law practice while raising a family, and I was on the fast track to burnout. I thought I just needed to be more organized or have better routines, but it was learning how to heal and regulate my nervous system that expanded my capacity to gracefully hold more of this big, beautiful life. You too are worthy of an extraordinary life in and beyond motherhood. Learning to be a calm, anchoring presence in your home and at work is going to be your superpower. If you're here to do the inner work that brings a sense of calm amidst the chaos, I'm here to join you on that journey. Each time you press play, your growth continues. So let's get at it. Hey guys, Michelle Grosser here. You're listening to the Calm Mom Podcast. Thanks for being with us today. Today we're going to talk all about high functioning anxiety. We're going to talk about some of the signs and symptoms and maybe sneaky ways that it is showing up for you that you've been living with high functioning anxiety. But before we do that, I want to ask you guys, have you signed up for the Energy Upgrade Masterclass yet? I am going to be teaching it live. If you're listening to this episode in real time, it's going to be next Tuesday, June 4th at noon Eastern on Zoom. I'm going to be teaching you guys 3 science-backed strategies to generate more energy from the inside out. I want you guys to be able to wake up feeling refreshed, feel energized all day long. When we have more energy, we feel better. We're in a better mood. We can parent better. We're way more productive, right? We don't get to the end of the day just dragging, or maybe it's not even the end of the day. Maybe it's like 2 p.m. I want to teach you some really simple science-backed habits that you can start to put into place today to start generating more energy from the inside out. So if you're ready for an energy upgrade, don't waste any time. It's coming up. It's right around the corner. Go ahead and register. Free masterclass. There's a link in the show notes, or you can go to michellegrosser.com/energy. If you can't make it live, totally okay. Go ahead, register. I'm going to email you a copy of the replay afterwards so you can watch it on your own time. But it's going to be great. And I can't wait to see you guys there. I love teaching you live. I love the energy when we gather together, whether it's virtually or in person. There's just something so special about it. So don't miss it. Okay, so let's jump into today's episode. 5 signs you're living with high functioning anxiety. When I was putting this together, I think it can be hard to recognize high functioning anxiety because I think to the outer manifestations of some of the things that show up when we have high functioning anxiety are things that society actually like highly regards. There are things that society rewards the most. So we're getting all this positive reinforcement. We're getting affirmation for these traits, and we're not realizing that these are actually symptoms of a nervous system that is stuck in fight or flight, right? It's a fight or flight response. It's manifesting as high functioning anxiety. It takes a massive toll on our energy. So if you resonate with today's episode, make sure you come to that Energy Upgrade Masterclass. And it takes a toll on our mental and our emotional and our physical health. So we're high achieving, right? We're productive, we're dependable, we're people who like take initiative, we're organized, we're successful, all the things, right? Raising my hand over here because I'm with you guys. But what no one sees is everything that happens beneath the surface when you're living with high functioning anxiety. The self-doubt, the overthinking, the overplanning, the inability to rest, right? The inability to relax. Because on the outside, it looks like we've got it all down, right? It looks like we're balancing everything like a pro. So what I want to do today is I want to give you guys 5 signs that you might be living with high functioning anxiety, because awareness is so powerful. It's key. It's so important. Awareness precedes choice. You'll keep hearing me say that. We cannot intervene in a world that we can't see, right? We can't do something about something we don't know exists. So if you resonate with these 5 signs we're going to talk about today, I just want to encourage you, like, this is good. This is growth, right? You're growing in awareness, and then you can turn around and you can actually do something about it. You can learn how to close the stress cycle in your body so that your nervous system can shift out of that anxiety, out of that fight or flight response, and back into a state of equilibrium, of calm, of ease, of presence. That's a large majority of what I teach here on the podcast. It's what we focus on inside of Restore, which is our quarterly group program. The next cohort launches in June. So if that's been on your radar, stay tuned. And obviously we coach on it. I coach on it with my one-on-one clients. All right, so let's jump in. The first sign that you are living with high functioning anxiety is that you, my friend, are a high achiever, but you are an overthinker. You overthink everything. And this is probably the thing that the women I work with are really self-aware of. Like, you guys know that you overthink. And as I was putting this together, this outline for today's episode, I'm like, yeah, of course they're aware that they overthink because they actually overthink about their overthinking, right? It's like this cycle. How is overthinking tied to high functioning anxiety? Well, you are continuously analyzing everything, right? And I can get looped into that too when I'm not taking care of myself, when I'm not being careful. I can overthink all the things. I can overthink a podcast interview. I can overthink something that I said, something that I did, how a coaching session went, right? After the fact, I'm like dissecting every little thing. What I asked, like, maybe you do that too. Maybe you get stuck in a spiral of overthinking, something that happened in your workplace, your performance, your decisions, your actions. Like, you're always seeking ways to tweak and improve, avoid any mistakes. Anxiety, you guys, is a function of our sympathetic nervous system. It's one of the circuits of our nervous system. And anxiety, our sympathetic nervous system, is rooted in fear. So that fear, it drives us to overthinking, right? It could be a fear of not meeting our own high standards, right? So what do? We fall into this cycle of like relentless thought and self-criticism. And if this is you, like if this is landing, my encouragement to you is to get curious, right? That's my invitation to you. Like, get curious, because what's actually probably going on here, and I'll speak from a place of like raising my hand first, because this was me. You likely have a deep-seated fear of failure, right? Let's just be real. Most of us high achievers do have a deep-seated fear of failure, or we've had a deep-seated fear of failure that we're working through and we're healing. So what do? We worry about, all the potential negative outcomes, everything we say, every decision we make. It leads us to analysis paralysis. We're just so fearful of making the wrong choice. We deliberate excessively, right? We're like constantly weighing pros and cons, looking at every little possible outcome. We're second guessing everything. And if that's a pattern that you guys tend to run, it makes it so freaking hard to truly relax, right? To truly like be able to check out, switch off your thoughts, rest. Like, the wheels are always turning. I know, because I've been there. You're always reviewing everything, right? Your past events, you're always planning future tasks. You're always worrying about everything that needs to be done and like all the different possible outcomes to every scenario. And you really struggle to quiet your mind. And what does that do? It exacerbates your anxiety, and it's just kind of like this hamster wheel that you're stuck on. So that's the first sign. If you land with that, you're a super high achiever and you also tend to overthink. That might be a sign that you're living with high functioning anxiety. The second is people pleasing. If you are stuck in a cycle of always saying yes to keep everyone happy, right? Please everybody. If you notoriously take on more than you can handle, if you're stuck like doing all of this stuff that you don't want to be doing and going to places you don't want to be going to, if you're working too much, taking on all these different projects, you're really struggling with, work-life balance, whatever that is or looks like. If you're agreeing to all these things that you really don't want to agree to, like, this is a pattern that starts really early. So if this resonates, if this lands for you, you guys can probably think back and see like, oh my gosh, I've been running this pattern of people pleasing for as long as I can remember, right? Back to childhood. You were probably the one that was super helpful. You're probably like the teacher's helper. You got the good grades. You were involved in like student government, all the extracurriculars. You got the scholarships. You like all the things. You were keeping everyone around you happy. And why do we do this, right? Why is this a a symptom or a function of high functioning anxiety? Well, the first is that, like anxiety, people pleasing is rooted in fear and it's rooted in insecurity. So it's activated by that sympathetic circuit in our nervous system, that fight or flight. We fear rejection. We fear disapproval. We fear being rude, right? Heaven forbid that like someone doesn't agree with us or that they think that we're disrespectful for setting a boundary or whatever it is. So we go out of our way to keep everybody happy and we self-abandon and we're trying to keep everyone pleased at the expense of what? At the expense of our own voice, at the expense of our own rest, at the expense of our own needs, at the expense of our own desires. Like the list probably goes on. And we avoid conflict like the plague. So instead of being honest, instead of being authentic, instead of knowing and being able to set and enforce healthy boundaries around all the things that we need to protect, right? Our joy, our bandwidth, our behaviors, we just appease. We just agree. We just say yes because that's our programming and that's our patterning. And that feels safer to our nervous system. If everyone around me is happy, I can be happy, right? If everyone around me is happy, I can be safe. And that's a pattern that so many of us tend to run. And it's a sign that we're living with high functioning anxiety. So that's the second one. The third sign that you're living with high functioning anxiety is that you might have low self-image, low self-worth. Guys, so many of the women I work with, so many of my clients who struggle with high functioning anxiety also struggle with this. They struggle with feelings of low self-worth, low self-confidence. And I think it's really subtle because we are the high achievers, right? We are like the people on the periphery don't see it because we don't talk about it. We don't put it on display. Like most of it's in our head. We know we're super capable, but we still maybe don't fully believe in ourselves, right? We're really hard on ourselves. Maybe you have really unrealistic expectations for yourself. Maybe you're super self-critical, like you have a really harsh, maybe loud inner critic. But just because it's not on full display for everyone to see doesn't mean it's not having an impact, right? It's having a huge impact on your life. It's impacting the decisions you make. It's impacting the thoughts you think. It's impacting the risks you take. It's impacting how you show up in your relationships. It's impacting the boundaries you set, the goals you set. Like it's impacting the joy you allow yourself to experience, all of it. It's all tied to worthiness. And I started this podcast. I started this coaching business. You guys know this, while still managing and running and showing up as a lawyer, like in a law firm. Not easy, right? And I was on a call with someone this week, a call with someone I do business with for my law firm. And she's like, man, can I pick your brain? I was like, yeah, sure. And she's thinking about a career transition and she's hesitant, which I get. But she asked me something, I don't remember what it was, but she's like, why did you start the podcast? Like, why did you do this transition? Like, why did you start this coaching business? Is it because you thought you'd make more money? Is it like you were looking for more work-life balance? And I think those are all good questions. And I think those are all good reasons, frankly, to do a 180 in your career like I'm doing. But in response to her question, the first thing that came out of my mouth was because I wanted to. I did it because I wanted to. And I didn't say that petulantly, right? Like I was thinking about it after that conversation, because I kind of surprised myself that that's what came out. That was the reason why I started this podcast, why I started this coaching business, is because I wanted to. And I was thinking that so often, if we have low self-worth, if we have a poor self-image, we don't do the things we want to do. Like we don't do the things that we just simply want to do because we don't think we're worthy of that, right? We don't think our desires are worthy. We overthink. We feel like we have to justify everything, right? You know how freeing it is to do something just because you want to? You don't have to explain it to anyone. You don't have to justify it. Like it's so powerful. And when I said that to her, like I started this business because I wanted to, like there was a calling, there was a pull in the depths of my soul. I desired this because I know it's my calling, right? And thank God I've gotten to a place where I truly believe that I'm worthy of doing things because I want to do them. Like that's not selfish. That's not superfluous. That's not, surface. Like God put that desire in my heart for a reason, right? This is a part of what I'm called, what I'm created to do. But when we struggle with our self-worth, we start to believe a lie. And it's the lie that our worth is tied to how much we can do for others. Our worth is tied to something extrinsic, right? Our worth is tied to a paycheck. It's tied to, I don't know, being the PTA mom. It's tied to being like having a happy boss. And it starts this cycle of people pleasing and perfectionism because we've been conditioned that our worth comes from keeping everyone around us happy. And that is not true. Now, don't mishear me. Serving others is beautiful, right? We're all called to do it, all of us, serving our families, serving our communities. But when we do it, when we serve without boundaries, when we serve, at the expense of our own health and our own peace and our own well-being, when we do it, not from a place of love, not from a place of generosity, but when we do it from a place of obligation, or when we do it from a place of resentment, like that ain't it, right? That ain't it, my friends. So low self-image, low self-worth, showing up as a sign of high functioning anxiety, and it keeps us playing small. Number 4 is perfectionism. Perfectionism. And I say this so gently, and I say this with all respect. I love you guys so much. This was me. I'm with you. But you are not a quote unquote perfectionist. You're not, right? That's not a label that you have to assume. That's not a title you have to carry. It's not a badge you get to wear. Perfectionism is a coping mechanism. It's a coping strategy to try to regain some sense of control. So like the overthinking we talked about, like that high achiever in you, those are all also coping mechanisms for similar fears, right? Perfectionism, so often it's just driven by a fear of failure. It's driven by a fear of being embarrassed. It's driven by a fear of being criticized. And that fear drives you to pursue perfection, which is a mountain that has no peak, right? You're reaching, you're striving, trying to have everything be perfect in order to try to shield yourself from all of that stuff that you fear, the mistakes, the embarrassment, the negative feedback, the perceived weaknesses, whatever it is. So if we obsess over perfection, what happens? It gives our nervous system this pseudo sense that we have more control. And it creates a sense of safety in our body. But here's the thing, it's a false sense of control, right? It doesn't actually bring peace. It doesn't actually bring what you're looking for. It actually drives more anxiety. So the work here, if you tend to run a pattern of perfectionism, is learning how to feel safe in your body, in your nervous system when things are not perfect. That's the freedom. That's the work. That's the rub. How can I be more comfortable in the messy? How can I release this death grip of worrying how others are going to perceive me if my house, my work, my projects, my performance, my kids, my marriage, my body, my email, my podcast episode, you name it, is not perfect, right? That's the safety. That's the freedom you're actually seeking. How can I be okay in the imperfect, right? How can I embrace what actually is? How can I stop trying to prove, again, this goes back to worthiness. How can I stop trying to prove that I'm worthy? How can I stop trying to prove that I'm smart? How can I stop trying to prove that I'm successful, right? That I'm a good mom, whatever. Perfectionism is proving. Perfectionism is proving. It all goes back to worthiness. You, my friend, do not have to prove anything. You are freaking amazing. And deep down, I know that you know that. You've just been conditioned that you have to prove it. And that's a lie. It's not true. That's exhausting. And that will keep you playing small. It'll keep you stuck in a box. It'll lead you to burnout. So that's number 4, perfectionism. And then number 5 is that you, my friend, are probably really good under pressure, but you procrastinate. Or maybe I should say you're really good under pressure, which is why you procrastinate. Procrastinating, especially in the women who listen to this podcast, especially in the women I work with, so it probably applies to you. You do not procrastinate because you're lazy. You do not procrastinate because you lack discipline. You do not procrastinate because you're unmotivated. You procrastinate because one, it's a freeze response in your nervous system because you are feeling so overwhelmed and your nervous system enters what we call a dorsal vagal collapse. It shuts down and you feel frozen. You procrastinate. Or you procrastinate because your nervous system is familiar and comfortable with stress. You are familiar and comfortable in these high pressure, high stress situations. So you wait until the last minute because you think you've convinced yourself, and maybe part of it is true, that you thrive in pressure. So if you have high functioning anxiety, you probably also set super high standards for yourself, right? Now, you can start setting those high expectations for yourself can start to breed this fear that we might not actually reach those high standards, right? Or worse, we might make a mistake, gasp. And that fear of failure, that fear of perceived failure, I'll say it better, right? Or that mistake, that fear is so overwhelming, it sends your nervous system into a freeze response. So we procrastinate and we don't take action because we've convinced ourselves, and this is all subconscious, that the procrastination, the avoidance, all of that insulates us from what we fear. So we don't start the project, we don't start, the side hustle, we don't start the nonprofit, we don't make the call, we don't make the pitch, all of the things. We've probably all done this in some capacity. And here's the thing, we know how it ends up, right? We're putting something off and we get that, short-term gratification and that delay of the discomfort, but it's all momentary. It's all for a moment, right? It momentarily reduces our anxiety, even though that often leads to increased stress and more anxiety later on as, the deadline approaches or whatever it is. And then the other side of the procrastination thing is this. And here's the thing about our nervous system. Our nervous system will always choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven. I'm going to say that again. Your nervous system will always choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven. And here's why. To our nervous system, familiar equals safe. Familiarity and safety are synonymous, right? I know this. I've been through this before. This is familiar. I've survived. It means it's safe. Even if that thing that is familiar, you guys, is not actually serving you best. If it is familiar, your nervous system thinks it's safe. All subconscious. So if you are familiar with high stress, if you are familiar with chaos, if you are familiar with high pressure, that familiarity feels safe to your nervous system, even if it's not actually serving you. So when you're procrastinating and that deadline is looming and quick approaching, and the pressure is mounting, your body's stress response kicks in, right? And what happens? There's a physiological response. Adrenaline is released and you channel all of that anxious energy that you're feeling into productivity because, girl, you're on a tight deadline, right? So you got to act. You don't have the luxury of overthinking. You don't have the luxury of perfectionism because things just got to get done. So it feels really productive, but here's the thing. There's a cost, right? There's a cost to living like that, especially if you're doing it as a pattern, if you've been doing it long-term, if that's your conditioning. It is stressful, right? The constant release of those stress hormones, that cortisol, that adrenaline, it has an impact on your body. It has an impact on your mind. We start to see, physical symptoms and physical manifestations of that stress. We see gut issues. We see insomnia. We see, muscle aches and tension, exhaustion, burnout, autoimmune conditions, you name it, because your nervous system gets stuck in fight or flight. And yes, maybe you're productive at the last minute, but ultimately you are living chronically dysregulated, and there's a cost to that. So those are the 5 signs. I shouldn't say the 5 signs. Those are 5 signs. There's so many others that you're living with high functioning anxiety. Maybe you're a high achiever, but you're an overthinker. You're people pleasing, low self-worth, low self-confidence, perfectionism, and procrastination. And if this is resonating, if this landed for you guys today, I don't have to tell you how exhausting this is. I lived it for most of my life, right? When I finally was able to, one, grow an awareness of all of this, and then work with someone to help me heal it 7-8 years ago, it changed my life because high functioning anxiety will run you down. So if you guys have been living like this for a long time, man, I really encourage you, one, get curious about it, extend yourself some compassion. There is a way through. And then, man, go ahead and save your spot in the Energy Upgrade Masterclass. It's free. It's a no-brainer. I want to teach you guys 3 of the science-backed secrets. I don't know if they're secrets. It just sounds good. Science-backed secrets. That just made a huge difference in my life, a huge difference in my mood, a huge difference in my energy levels. It's not what you think. I'm not going to, tell you to wake up at 3 a.m. and run 5 miles every day. Like that's just annoying. But I am going to give you 3 shifts, all science-backed. I'm going to give you my exact supplement regimen that made a huge difference in my mood and in my energy. I'm going to give you guys things that I've been able to sustainably do while showing up in my parenting, in my marriage, in my personal life, and running 3 businesses, right? That requires energy, sustainable energy. So the link is in the show notes. It's next Tuesday. If you're listening live, it's on June 4th at noon Eastern on Zoom. You can register for free, put it in your calendar. If you guys want to attend, if you're like, yes, I need this, but you can't make it live, that's okay. Just go ahead and register. I'll email you a link after, a link to the replay. It's going to be awesome. You're going to learn something, but even more than that, you're going to have easy shifts that you can start putting into practice. Because here's the thing, you guys, all that stuff we know, it isn't worth squat until we take action on it. So I'm going to give you some practical handles that you guys can start doing immediately that are going to give you some really big wins and ultimately more energy. So I'll see you guys there. I love you so much. Have a great rest of the day. I'll talk to you guys soon.
If you love Mommy's Podcast, leave a review.
If you enjoyed this episode, it would be so awesome if you could take a moment to subscribe and rate the podcast. And if you have just a few more seconds to leave a quick review, they really help to get this podcast out to other moms like you. I read every last review, and trust me, when it's late at night or early in the morning before my kids get up and I'm working on bringing you all of this content, your reviews are what keep me going. Leaving a review is truly the best way you can thank me. And of course, DM me on Instagram. I love to hear from you. Thanks for listening to another episode. Head over to the show notes for this episode and all past episodes at michellegrosser.com, where you'll find free resources and more ways to connect with me. If you love the show, share it with a friend. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time.